Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the West Ham Weekly. No, it's not the West Ham Weekly. My apologies for that. The West Ham Daily. It is, of course. Thank you all for joining me on a bit of a miserable Thursday afternoon, and a little bit more miserable, I guess, after that kind of lackluster performance yesterday against Brighton. Wasn't the best of games, was it really? To get kind of outplayed at home against a very decent Brighton side. Let's be honest. Let's not beat around the bush. Brighton were very good. Brighton controlled the game. Brighton, their passing, their movement, their ability on the ball as well as off the ball. I think they had something like 67% possession of the game. And when you think about all of that, when they were actually playing us at our own ground, you've got to admire them. You've got to admire the way that they've been set up. You've got to admire their technical ability. You've got to admire the way they were passing the ball around. They did really well. And they kind of humbled us a little bit. It's the kind of football that we were seeing us playing earlier in the season, and then we kind of almost got taught a bit of a footballing lesson by Brighton on Wednesday nights, and you gotta take your hat off to them. They played exceptionally well. They made us look quite ordinary. We were chasing the ball an awful lot when we were getting it. We weren't doing much with it. We kind of reverted to the hoof it up the park sort of approach, and it wasn't very pleasant to see. And there was not one moment in the game where, even though we went a gut 1-0 up after 4 or 5 minutes, there was not one moment in the game where you thought that we were in control of the game at any time. What I really admired about Brighton was their absolute patience, their resolve, and when the fact that when they went 1-0 down, they looked more surprised than anything else, and they just steadily got back into the game and they ground out a result. And the irony, Brighton. Even though they went down by a player near the end of the game, they made three changes, three subs, and it seemed seamless. It didn't matter who was on the pitch, who wasn't on the pitch, etc. It seemed that they were seamless in their approach. They kind of they had it really. They really just played their game, and they weren't worried about West Ham United. West Ham United. They made sure that West Ham United were much more worried about them. So credit to them. Now, look, this isn't a rant. It's kind of a reflection more than anything else. We still, regardless of what happened yesterday and what's happened in the last three games since we've come back from international duty, we still have got or still having a really good season. So let's just put this in perspective and let's bear that in mind. The squad is having a great season as it stands until the game against Arsenal's played. If they lose against Man United, we'll still be fourth in the league. If Arsenal do beat Man U, then we'll drop down to fifth. But Man U are playing Arsenal at home, so I'm guessing that Man U will do the job there. So we're still fourth. We're still in the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup with the quarterfinal coming up against Spurs later on this month. And of course we're through to the knockout stages of the Europa League, and we don't have to worry about the Europa League now until March. So let's put this in perspective, people. Let's do remember what a good season we're still having. Because in all fairness, if the results had gone this way, where we kind of lost our last two and we got a draw dispersed across the season. Say, for example, if we lost against Liverpool and then we beat Brighton or whatever, we'd be looking at this going, you know what? We're doing really well, fourth in the league, etc., etc. So we have to get this in perspective. Now, is there a slide coming? I don't know. I mean, you look at the Wolves game. The Europe the international break just never does us any favors. It came at such a bad time for us. We were playing so well and really on the with a good momentum, beating Liverpool, etc. Didn't want it to stop, did we? And I hate with a passion international breaks, because if there's one team that suffer, I'd like to see the statistics. If there's one team that suffers more because of international breaks than others in the Premier League, I bet you might see West Ham United top of that list, or very near the top. We just always seem to suffer when there's an international break. And let's not deny, since we've come back from the international break, we haven't done that well, or haven't we? Against Wolves, it was a really poor performance. We didn't expect anything from that. Given the performance we put in, we deservedly got beat there. Then against Man City, there was a bit of resolve. We played well against them. I think we held our own. I think, ironically, we were really unlucky not to have come away with anything from that game. And if we'd taken our chances, it might have been a completely different story. There was, of course, the game against Vienna. I think we kind of laboured on that as well. We beat them. We did a professional job, but it wasn't the sort of performance that I think we were expecting. I think we were expecting to go out there and really, give them a bit, not a bit of a hammering, but sort of to be really in control. We were in control, but it was more about how poor Vienna was. And then, of course, this game. So we've had 4 games since the international break. Wolves, we deserve nothing. I think that, the Vienna game, we did a professional job. Man City, I think we were genuinely unlucky to really get anything, not to get anything from that. And then we had the performance against Brighton. And one could argue, at least we didn't lose. That is the good thing about it. We did come away with a point. And given that we were outplayed on the pitch at our home, I think a point was good in a roundabout sort of way. Now, a lot of people, I've seen what's happening on social media, and sometimes I'm my own worst enemy, because I try to make light of it sometimes, but sometimes some of the stuff that comes out does kind of get to me, and I'm sure it gets to a lot of fans where all of a sudden it's like we're just shit and we're about to get relegated, and what life couldn't be any worse, etc. And that's why I started to say at the beginning of this show, we've got to put this in perspective. Let me repeat. We are 4th in the league at this moment in time, dependent on what happens between the game between Man United and Arsenal. We are through to the knockout stages of the Europa League, and we don't have to worry about that until March now. And we've got the quarter-final of the Carabao Cup coming up against Spurs later this month. So it's not all bad, people. It's not all bad. I think what I'm slightly more concerned about is our overall performances. Like I said, against Wolves, we were poor. Against Vienna, we weren't fantastic, but we did a professional job. Against City, I think, ironically, I got to admit now, even though I talked about it on Monday night in the West Ham Weekly, I think perhaps Moyes did give him a bit too much respect than he should have done by kind of playing Masuaku with 5 at the back, etc. And then against Brighton last night, they humbled us. They played better than us. They managed the ball better than we did. They passed it better. They controlled it better. They just had control of the game. And so to get a point from that, ironically, was not a bad thing. So are we overreacting? Well, I think it's understandable. People voice their opinions. People say what they think about a game, and quite rightly, heat of the moment, etc. People sort of turn around and say, what they want to say. But when you look at it, when you reflect back and you look at how things have been going, I think maybe we just need to sort of like reflect and make sure that we are not getting carried away. It's not as if our season is all of a sudden over. But uh, uh, the thing that I want to talk about is how David Moyes is utilizing his squad. I think Moyes. Say hello to Sushi. Moyes what Moyes sometimes does is he kind of reverts to type. He will only make changes when he's forced to make changes, and we know that with Ogbonna out, he had to make a change there and bring Dawson in, and then we were told that Creswell wasn't going to be fit enough for the game because of his injury against City, so he had to make 2 enforced changes, which were he brought Soufal back in and put Johnson out on the left, and we know Dawson seems to be the first the replacement for Ogbonna. But should David Moyes utilise his squad even more? I talked on Monday night about because I don't want to call it the A team and the B team or the first team and the second team, and I kind of gave it names. I gave it a a midweek team and a weekend team, and the weekend team usually more or less is the team that he put out last night, with the exception, as I say, of Creswell and Ogbonna. If they'd been fit, then they would have been in the back line. And the rest of the team, Declan, Souček, Fornals, Ben Rama, Bowen, and Antonio up front with Fabianski in goal is usually what he will pick for a Premier League game. But should he be start making new? Should he start making use more of the other players that he's got disposed at disposal to him? And I just sort of ask myself sometimes that maybe he should start putting a little bit more faith in the squad overall, and he should start maybe demonstrating to some of the players that maybe they can take part in a Premier League game, and he's got the confidence in them to do so. So let's go right at the back, and we'll just work through it pretty quickly. Fabianski, as we know, he's number one. He kind of proved again against Brighton that there's a reason why Moyes has stuck with him and has kept faith with him and is committed to keeping him as in the number one slot. Now we know that Areola is a really good keeper, and he's really settled in. And he's begun to really show his worth, and a lot of people say that Areola should be given an opportunity to start a game. But as it stands at this present moment in time, quite possibly you can understand why Moyes is sticking with Fabianski and a goalkeeper. With a goalie, you don't have to keep switching goalies, and sometimes it's not always good to switch goalies from one to the other. If as the only change, if the rest of your squad is or the rest of your first team is going to remain sort of not change, so that could disrupt things. So I kind of get why David Moyes has not tampered too much with Areola and Fabianski. Then on the right hand side, Moyes has got a choice to make. Soufal, he came back from injury, and he actually played quite well in the game against Brighton. He was pretty good. He was pretty solid. Kind of the sort of game that you'd expect David Soufal to play. And then Ben Johnson, as we know, he's been keeping Soufal out of the team for the last few games, and he's done exceptionally well. And it's great that he's a versatile enough player to be able to step in for Aaron Creswell on the left-hand side. But the decision that's the first decision Moyes has got is when Creswell's back. We don't know what the situation will be with Aaron Creswell for the next game. Will he be fit enough or not? But if Creswell's back, then this is the first decision that David Moyes has got to make. Will he bring Creswell back in the team, and then between the likes of Johnson and Soufal, who's he going to pick? Now, I think quite possibly this is one of these three players could actually rotate quite easily and all fit in quite well in any team. So that if he decides to go with, let's say, for argument's sake, if he decides to go for Johnson and Creswell against Chelsea on Saturday, then he might revert back to. Well, I'm going to discount the Zagreb game because I think there's going to be a lot of changes in that. But then he might revert, on the following game against Burnley, he might decide to play Soufal and Creswell, and he might keep interchanging those players throughout the whole of December. That's quite possible. Now, in central defence, we know that Zuma is going to start just about every game. It's quite, almost definite that Zuma will play against Chelsea, and you'll probably see him play against Burnley as well. Will he play against Zagreb? I don't know. Maybe not. But like I said, let's discount Zagreb for the moment. But with Zuma, for example, you can see that he will be played in every Premier League game. But then the next choice that Moyes has got is really to decide what is he going to do alongside Zuma. Now, look, I don't want to pick any players out specifically and sort of criticize them, but you've got to start looking at some of the stats, etc., and you've got to start, wondering whether Moyes will make a necessary change in the central of defence to go alongside Zuma. Now, we know that Craig Dawson has been the main choice for to partner Zuma. But a lot of people are questioning, is that really the right choice to make? And should Craig Dawson still retain his place in the starting lineup? Now, I've got a feeling that quite possibly, if you're going to see a change on Saturday, this might be one of the changes that Moyes will make. On the game against Brighton, Dawson lost out of 6 aerial challenges, and he lost possession 4 times from 19 touches. Now, if your defenders are doing that, if they're not winning the headers, and if they're losing possession, if a defender's losing possession that many times, 4 times out of 19 touches, that puts your defense straight into danger. And look, I know that the Morpie goal was great, back scissor kick or whatever you want to call it, but I kind of looked at that and looked at that and asked myself, could Dawson have maybe gotten closer? Could Dawson maybe have gotten much more in the way to not allow Malpai the actual space to have a shot like he did? So I think quite possibly that if there's going to be the first change that's going to be made at the weekend, I think Diop comes in. Is a Diop, when he's been called upon this season to play primarily in the cup games and also, of course, in the Europa League games, has played well. He's played exceptionally well. He doesn't seem to have let the team down in any way. And the other good thing about Diop is he can play on the left side of central defence, which means that Zuma can play, on the right side of defence, which people say is more a natural position for him. Now, people are going to argue, well, hang on a minute, Diop has got a mistake in him. Well, unfortunately, so has Diop, so has Dawson, as I've just mentioned. Dawson, Dawson has been immense, and let's not forget, Dawson only cost us 2.4 million pounds. So of course, what he's done for us has been exceptional. He's come in, he's filled in. I don't think he was ever meant to be, a starter, but he pushed himself last season. He became one of those starters and became a reliable starter. And I think at the tail end of last season, he started to show a little bit of, not so great. Remember the game against Newcastle, the rash challenge we got sent off, and he had a couple of mistakes in him, etc. So as much as people will argue, well, Diop's got an error in him, I would argue back, well, quite possibly so is Dawson. And I think if there's going to be a change on Saturday, depending on what he does with Creswell and Soufal and Johnson, if Creswell's back, he might decide to bring Creswell back. But also, I think he might start really seriously thinking about whether Dawson is the really the best partner for Zuma, or whether he should maybe bring Diop in on that side. Now, in the central of midfield, holding midfield, a lot's been said about Thomas Souček, and he's lost his drive, he's lost his energy. He doesn't seem to be as up for it as he has been in the past, and maybe he's just not with it anymore, etc. Now, I argued the other day that between him and Declan, they kind of changed their game. Declan has turned around and he said, I want to play further forward. I want to demonstrate that I'm an all-round midfielder, that I'm not just a holding midfielder. And that's absolutely fantastic for us. That's great. But what I think that's done I think I said this on the Monday night show. Last season, when Souček was going forward, he would always look behind his back and make sure that Declan was standing there, or making sure that he's covering for him, so that Souček could go forward. And that's how Souček was getting quite a lot of his goals. This season, because Declan wants to go forward, Souček has got to check himself, and he's not making as many runs into the box as he used to do last season. So I think their style of play has changed between the two, and I think that David Moyes needs to take control of this and speak to them and say, this is what I want you, not what do you want to do. This is what I want you, as two footballers, clever footballers, smart footballers who've been playing alongside each other now for over 18 months, etc. This is what I want you to do. I want you to go back to basics and do what's right. Do your strengths. Yes, of course, Declan Rice, we love the fact that he wants to be an all-rounded box-to-box midfielder, etc. But basically, if Declan is better at holding midfield, then Declan needs to do that. If you remember last season when Declan was injured, Souček was playing with other players, Noble, etc., etc. And it was always Souček that took that responsibility of sitting back. So they can both do that job. But I think what Moyes needs to do is just say to them, you either make sure that you're interacting with each other and going forward back, or Declan, you stay back. Souček, you go forward. Who's the bigger goal threat? I know Declan's got a couple of goals this season, but still, for me, the bigger goal threat of the two is Souček. So I think that's another area that David Moyes kind of needs to sort out. Will he change it? Will he bring other players in? No, I don't think so, and I don't think I really actually don't think he needs to. And then we look at our attacking midfielders, and we got Pablo Fornals. He's not been on, he's not been on the ball really properly lately. He continues to be a great servant for West Ham, and I think he's just had a slight dip of form lately. But look at that cracking volley he took. If that gone in, that would have been contender for goal of the month, goal of the season, or whatever. That was a great shot. But yeah, he's been slightly off the boil. He's not really been at it. But you know damn well what Fornals is going to give you. And also what Fornals does is when he plays on the left side of the attacking midfield, he can drop back and help out, whether it be Cresswell or Johnson or whoever's there, as he does all the time. He's a good runner. You know what you're going to get from him, and you know that he's not really gonna let you down. Now, the alternative, what Moyes did against Man City, which was kind of a surprise to a lot of us, I guess, was that he decided to put Fornals on the right hand side, and he brought in Arthur Masuaku. Now, look, I know people go on about me going on about Masuaku, etc., but in this case. Look, a player can only play because he's been chosen by the manager, but then a player's got to do the job that the manager wants him to do. Now, Masuaku was brought in on against Man City to give a bit more defensive cover on the left hand side, and to make sure that Man City weren't getting the crosses in, and trying to sort of make sure that there was more defence there. But unfortunately, what Arthur Masuaku does during the game is he kind of goes missing. He kind of wanders sometimes, and he loses his concentration, and he allows teams to get behind him, and it kind of demonstrated that on Saturday, where their first goal came from that side because he wasn't in the position he was meant to be in. And you could see David Moyes talking to me afterwards and making sure he was sitting back. And then we brought him on against Brighton, and I had visions of 2020, February 2020, when we were playing Brighton and we were winning 3-1. Masuaku came on, and within minutes they were drawing 3-3. And I kind of said to the people alongside me, I said, Masuaku's on, we're going to concede. And what happened? Sub, is it Lamptey? I think the little guy, took the ball to the byline. Masuaku let him go past him too easy. Ball was crossed in, and there you go. That's what happened. And people say I've got it in for him. I don't have it. If a player plays well, I will say that a player plays well. But unfortunately, Masuaku does go missing too many times. So for me, it would always be Fornals that will sort of stick on the left hand side to provide that defensive cover. And I just don't think if you're going to use your squad, maybe Masuaku's not the right one for it. If you want to put someone on the left side and maybe provide a little bit more defensive cover, who's also got a bit of pace as well, why not consider Ryan Fredericks? Now, people are going, well, hang on a minute, he's right-footed. Ryan Fredericks has come in on the left side, and he did quite well before he was injured this season. To provide that defensive cover, and he can come back, and of the two of them, they're kind of like similar, but I would say that with a bit more defensive mindedness, I think Ryan Fredericks is just that sort of player. And then, of course, a lot of people have been going on about Jared Bowen on the other side of the attacking midfield, and how many chances he squanders, and he's wasteful, and he doesn't have his shooting boots on, and he wastes a lot of chances. Yes, he does. But the one thing I would say about Jared Bowen is, he's the sort of player that you want on the pitch because he does run, he does make the runs, he does try and get in there, he does get about the defenders, and he does at least create chances, which is what not what our other attacking midfielders have been doing of late. And if there's one player that you'd want to keep in the team, and that's Jared Bowen. Is there an alternative? Yeah, possibly. I've just mentioned Ryan Fredericks. If you want to put Ryan Fredericks on the right side of attacking midfield, you can put Jared Bowen further up front. You can play him as a striker and have the pace of Ryan Fredericks to support on the right hand side. That's a possibility. And then, of course, there's a big question mark about Saeed Benrahma. This isn't, Benrahma. He is a decent player. We've seen that he is a decent player, consistent. No, let's be honest. No, he does look like he needs, I don't know, a little bit of comfort in or whatever it may be at the moment to get his mojo back. But he hasn't been playing very well lately. And when it comes to using your squad, maybe this is the next area that Moyes should really seriously consider what he wants to do and whether he's going to utilize his squad in the right manner, and maybe take Ben Rama. I don't want to say out of the firing line because that sounds a little bit unfair, but perhaps for now, maybe not start Ben Rama in the game against Chelsea at the weekend. And of course, the person that's ideal to replace him is Manuel Lanzini. Let me go back to Ben Rama for a moment because I do have some stats on Ben Rama, which are a little bit unfortunate, I'm afraid, but a little bit of stats on the game, Ben Rama. Um, Ben Rama, compared to Lanzini over this season, well, let's go on to Ben Rama. He showed glimpses what he can do, but sometimes there are some things that he doesn't do that he should be doing, and vice versa. A couple of times during the game, he got the ball, he started running forward, and he just had it. He was dispossessed really, really easily, and there were other times when he should just be passing the ball, pass and move, but he wasn't doing that, and the ball just wasn't sticking to him against Brighton. He kept on losing it more often than he should have been. Now, some stats between the two. But Lanzini has only played 10% of the game time as Ben Rama has this season. So he's had quite a limited amount of game time. And, you know, the stats between them, Lanzini's got 1 goal. Ben Rama's got 3, but then Ben Rama's played quite a lot of minutes more. He's got 1 assist to Ben Rama's 3 as well. Lanzini's pass success rate is 96% in the games that he's played. Ben Rama is only 80%. So his pass success rate, Lanzini's, is much better. Now, um, Ben Rama gets dispossessed an awful lot more than Lanzini, and also his bad control lets him down. Again, it's much much higher than Lanzini's as well. So being dispossessed and ball control, kind of is letting Ben Rama down at the moment. And many people are calling out for Lanzini to start on against Chelsea on Saturday, and I think that could be the next area that Moyes will really, really seriously consider. And then, of course, your final area is up front. And now, look, we don't have an alternative do we, to Mikel Antonio? He is our only striker at the moment until wait and see what happens in the January transfer window. So when it comes to making alternatives, I've talked about you can have alternatives at goalie. You've got Areola and Fabianski. You've got alternatives at right back. You've got Johnson and Soufal. You've got an alternative at left back, Creswell or Johnson can fit in there. You've got options, in central defence with Dawson, with Diop coming in, rather than Dawson alongside Zuma. I haven't talked much about options in central defensive midfield for Soufal and Soucek, but if need be, Noble can come on and play the last sort of 20 minutes of a game. We want to see a little bit more of Kral, as I mentioned in the show on Monday night as well. And then an attacking midfield, I've kind of said, you've got the likes of Fredericks. I know he's more a defender, but with his pace, he can do damage on either the right or left hand side. You've got Lanzini in place of Ben Rama if need be. Fornals, I think they should stick to Fornals, but maybe there's also Vlasic as well, who have yet to mention. So most areas of the pitch, you've got alternatives. Of course, the only area that we kind of don't have an alternative at the moment is up front with Antonio. Now, look, Antonio, he started off the season really, really well. The way we know the way he plays has been immense. His pace, his power, his strength brings other players into the game. He very much needed, and he makes us tick when he's on. When he's on form, he makes the rest of the team tick. He'll take players, he'll take defenders out of position for allowing our other attack-minded players to run into space, etc. We know everything he can do, but as David Moyes alluded to recently, if he's not super fit, then we don't get the best out of Antonio. And this is the dilemma I think David Moyes has got between now and the transfer window, and what happens in the rest of the games in December. What does David Moyes do with Antonio? Now, I don't think he'll bite the bullet and put him on the subs bench. I think you'll see Antonio starting on Saturday, regardless of the form he's in. But this is somewhere like I've just talked about other players that we can bring in. This is something that we can probably do, or David Moyes can do to maybe give Antonio that respite. Give him, let him. People will say it might be a negative thing to play Antonio, to put Antonio on the bench. I'm not so sure. With his current form at the moment, with his body language, he just doesn't seem to be at the races at all at the moment. And quite possibly by putting him on the subs bench and saying, "Look, you are my number one, but you're not doing it for me at the moment, so I'm going to put you on the bench. And when I do need you, come on and demonstrate to me what you're capable of doing." If he does that, that might just give Antonio and some of the other players that think that their spot in the first 11 is safe, that kick up the arse that they might need to go turn around and go, hang on a minute, I'm not going to be first choice. David Moyes has got alternatives that he can use, and for me, the alternatives that David Moyes has at his disposal, maybe he should bite the bullet a bit and make changes. Now, look, for the game against Chelsea on Saturday, if I was to make changes, I think the only one I would even dispute myself is maybe Vlasic on the right hand side, and possibly put someone like Fredericks in there instead of Vlasic. But there's a number of changes there. You bring Creswell back. It's a tough choice between Johnson and Soufal. Either or will do. But if Cresswell's not back from injury, then of course you put him back on. You put Johnson back on the left hand side, and Soufal retains his place on the right. The first real change, I guess, for me is the central of defence, as I've just said. I'd put Diop in there. I think Diop deserves his chance. As I said earlier, it will give Zuma the opportunity to play on the right side of central defence, and maybe, just maybe, that just might calm us down. We absolutely do miss Ogbonna's presence and his calmness and his assurity. And even though Ogbonna himself had an error or two in him, we've seen that we haven't won a game since he's been out. And I just think quite possibly with alongside Zuma, Diop would actually benefit from having Zuma alongside him, and they could create a quite a formidable partnership. And for me, Dawson's just not doing it. I just think that Dawson, he has lapses of concentration as well. He sometimes allows players to run in behind him. We saw that against Wolves when we were down up there a few weeks ago. And then central defence, central midfield, stay with Declan and Soucek. And then it's when you go further forward. I think Bowen, just put him up front. I know people say he misses a lot of chances, but as I said earlier, he does run at defenders. He does create chances. At least he does. He goes forward. He tries to pull defenders out and run at them and etc. And sometimes they can't stand the pace that he has. And whether it be Vlasic, whether it be I don't know, whether it be Fredericks or Vlasic or whatever, change that to allow for Bowen to start up front, and then bring Lanzini in. Take take Ben Rama out the firing line, leave Fornals on the left, and see what Lanzini can do. Now, a lot of people are going to say, "Well, you can't make that many changes in the game. You're just not possible." That you've got one, two, three. You've got four changes there. But if our squad is going to be utilised, and to make sure that our squad stays fresh, then why not? Moyes should have the faith in all of his players in his squad to be able to go, I'm going to change you. I'm not dropping you. I'm giving you a rest. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to change. Like I said at the very start of the show, Brighton had three subs on, because of injury, etc. The subs came on and it was seamless. They kind of like they just got, and this is what we need. You know, Moyes, as the Brighton manager Murray has done, he's got enough faith in them to go on, get in there, do the job that you need to do. Moyes should have the same faith in his squad in order to be able to turn around and say, get in there, you know what I'm expecting of you. But sometimes maybe the language, the message of Moyes, like, well, to Diop, I don't really trust you, so I'm picking Dawson. I'm not gonna pick you. Maybe to Vlasic the same. Maybe to Lanzini the same. There are some players that might be thinking to themselves, well, I might be able to do better than what is out there at the moment. Let me demonstrate to you what I can do. I think Moyes needs to utilise his squad and utilise it wisely. But then I'm no manager. I don't see them on a day-to-day basis. I can only tell you what I think. What I think Moyes will do, Moyes' choice, will be more like that. It'll probably be more the same. Dawson will retain his place at the weekend. If Creswell's back, like I say, the only real decision he'll have to make is on the right side of defence. I think the only change that Moyes is likely to make is Lanzini for Benrahma. That is more likely the choice the first 11, well 12 that you're likely to see Moyes make. Like I said, for me, but then I'm no manager. That would be the change. Those would be the changes I'd make. I'd put Diop in. I'd put Lanzini in, I'd put Bone up front, and I'll put somebody else, whether it's Vlasic or Fredericks or whatever, somebody else on the right hand side of that attacking midfield. Because if you have to drop as a five at the back, then of course, if Fredericks is there, for example, he can drop as five, to form a five at the back. That can be done. But yeah, look, so I didn't want to rant about yesterday's game. I was disappointed. Of course I was. I went there and I was thinking, you know what, we're going to break our hoodoo against Brighton and we're going to get the result that I think that we need. We're going to get a win, etc. Because that would just stabilise us a little bit more going into the game against Chelsea. It just didn't quite materialise. But I can't be angry at the team because, as I said right at the very start, it's still a great season. It is still a really, really good season. As I said right at the start of the show, let's not forget, we're still fourth in the league, people. We're still fourth in the league. All right, depending on what happens in the game between Man United and Arsenal, that could change, but we're still fourth in the league. We're through to the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup, and we're through to the knockout stages of the Europa League. It's still a good season. Dip in form? Absolutely. I am concerned about the slight dip in form. Should Moyes maybe start freshening it up? I think so. But like I said again, I'm no Premier League manager. That's what Moyes' job is there to do, to determine what is best for the team. And if he can get it right, and if he can utilise, maybe put that little bit of confidence in some of the other players that we've got in the squad, the likes of Diop, the likes of maybe even Areola, but I don't think, likes of Areola, the likes of Diop, the likes of Fredericks, the likes of Lanzini. He can bring those players in and it should be seamless and it should be, they should be good enough to be able to deliver what Moyes is expecting. And I think that would stand us in good stead. When players who are currently being picked almost relentlessly in the first 11, when those players see that they might lose their place because they're not delivering at the moment on the pitch, then that might give them the kick up the backside that they may need to press on. Right, I've done a lot of talking. We're 37 minutes in. Let's scroll all the way up to the top and see what you guys have to say. Because it's not just about me. Well, it is, but it ain't. Hammerette, oh, you're not working. How are you? I hope you're well. Good to see you last night. Pete, we didn't get to speak more, but I hope you're well. And yeah, hope you're not too disappointed about the game last night as well. Father Snowman, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Good afternoon to you, Scott. I'm very well, thank you very much. I'm taking a late lunch break to do this. Oh, and I might be back later. I might be back at about 6:30, but I'm going for my booster later on, straight after this. So if my booster knocks me out, you won't see me because there's a special player that we've been linked to that I want to talk about. I did Cabral earlier in the week. Someone else. But I'm gonna have to save that for later on. Scott, Brian frustrated us. Porter, who did I? Well, I called him Potter, didn't I? Or whatever I called him. Anyway, Porter got it spot on. They thoroughly deserved the point. They actually thoroughly deserved more than a point, to be really, really honest. Good afternoon, Naki. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining me. Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Don't want anyone to get me wrong, but I think we are starting to play negative counter-attack football. Last 5 or 6 league games have scored a lot of set pieces. Well, it's how other teams make us play, and unfortunately, I have to say, the game last night, Brighton made us play the way that we were playing rather than us reverting to it. We reverted to it against Man City, which I was a little bit upset about. But otherwise, I think Brighton made us play that way last night more than Moyes putting us out to do that. Naki, we need to put our chances away. Antonio needs a break and should be subbed. I totally agree. What do you think about not starting Antonio on Saturday? Do you think that would be the right thing to do? Naki, again, also would like to see Areola in London. Yeah, Mentioned that already. Kaiser, we're not the same without Ogbonna. Absolutely spot on. I totally agree. Mihilo, still no room for panic. We just need to struggle out a good game and get back on course. Hope Moyes thinks a little bit about mixing the team. There you go. Chelsea. You tell me, actually, I didn't think to ask. What would be your first 11 against Chelsea on Saturday? Who would you like to start on Saturday? Chelsea will be beaten on Saturday, trust me. Well done, mate. Gary, hello, mate. Everyone has worked us out and we can't change it. We are in trouble. We need a perfect performance starting Saturday, otherwise, we'll end up top 10. I don't think it's that bad yet, mate. I really don't. Hammerette, try to stay positive. This is not the decline of our winning ways, guys. We could surprise ourselves and beat Chelsea. Absolutely. The way we did against Liverpool. Crosshammer. Oh, we did lose two defenders yesterday, Noggy and Creswell. So even though I was gutted last night, I feel more positive today. Absolutely. But I think, ironically, it's not our. Well, I think I'm concerned about Dawson, like I've already mentioned. But I'm more worried about, what we're doing in further up the field, to be honest with you, mate. January coming too, rubbing hands together. Absolutely can't come soon enough now, can it? Garrett, I don't. If we start the same team Saturday, we'll get battered, and Chelsea are ready for a beating. You know what? Yeah, that this is what I guess what I'm getting to, Gary. I actually don't want to see the same 11 starting on Saturday. That would slightly concern me. Kaiser, player of the season, Vlasic needs more game time. Hammerette, Lanzini. Good afternoon, Black Country. I hope you're well. Victor, hello, mate. We're punching above our weight. All the teams around us spent 2 or 3 times more than us. Good point. Absolutely good point. But it's not about the value of a player, as I keep saying time and time again. It's not about how much the player is worth. It's about whether the player will fit in, whether he's a £2 million, a £5 million, a £15 million, or a £50 million player. Crosshammer. Lanzini changed the game, has to get more starts. Hammerette, I believe we will turn this around, start winning, and Moyes will get a couple of players in January, will make a big difference to our scoring ability. Father Snowman, still, it's all politics with Areola. Fab doing a good job. We know if Areola plays a certain amount of games, we have to sign him. But we need a keeper at the end of the season because at this present moment in time, Fabianski retires. Hammerette, I've been wanting the little jewel back in the weekend team for so long now. It's exciting to watch. Hope he starts on Saturday. Crosshammer, let's hope we need him like he's been the last 2 games. Absolutely. David M. Knowing that next week Europa League is a bonus game, West Ham can afford to play the likes of Areola, Diop, and Vlasic against Chelsea. Good shout. I think we were all thinking along the same lines as me. Do we need to mix it up? Does Moyes need to put a little bit of faith in some of these players and mix it up? Spencer, afternoon style, look on the bright side. We're still fourth and we're still massive. Absolutely. Victor, David Moyes has said Areola be at West Ham in long term. There you go. Play him then. Not that I think, to be quite honest with you, Fabianski's been playing bad. Good afternoon to you, young lad. How are you, Jake? I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Hammerette. Terribly negative stuff going around is shocking. How are the players expected to pick up form, seeing all this about them all over social media? Disappointed. I'm disappointed, to be honest with you. Everyone has a right to have their say, but it's how they say it. People just coming out and going, we're rubbish and blah blah blah. I find that quite irritating. It's when players are, it's when fans go, look, we played badly, and here are the reasons why I think we did. Whether they're right and wrong in their analysis. I may not be right in my analysis, but I try to give reasoning as to why I think we played well or played badly, or a particular player has played well or badly. But you're right, Hammerette. There's a lot of people that just put out a lot of really, negative stuff. I agree. Stick the op in and let Zuma go right. Absolutely. That was from Long Dark, Black Country, Lanzini in, also Diop. Long Dark, Masuaku messed up by letting that cross in and Dawson should have. It's my thinking as well. Absolutely my thinking. You bring Masuaku on to stop those crosses coming in, and then he lets those crosses come in. David, Areola, Soufal, Diop. Areola, Soufal, Diop, Zuma, Creswell. So you drop Johnson. Interesting. Okay. Rice, Socek, Fornals, Lanzini, Yarmolenko, and Bowen up front. Okay. Interesting. Let's scroll down. I can't put every comment up, but I'll try my best. Bowen go up front. Who will play on the right? What do you think of me saying whether Vlasic should go on the right or even Fredericks? David M. Think Vlasic, Victor. I think we'll get a result on Saturday. I got that feeling in my bones that we will. But then again, I've had that feeling before, and it was just a little bit of gut rot. Kaiser Ben Rahman may be a good impact sub. Good shout. Father Snowman, Benny as set for AFCON, doesn't want to get injured. Well, you either concentrate on your domestic team or you don't play. Michael, bench Antonio for Perkins. I think Perkins is a little bit too early for him, to be honest. But it was good to see him warming up at the game last night. Victor, has Ben Rama been overhyped? I don't know. I think Ben Rama's got it. I just think he's just dropped in form a little bit at the moment. Don't stop the music. Good evening. Good afternoon. Ben Rama is asked to do a lot more defensive work, not given the freedom like Lingard was. That really is a good shout, and you are absolutely correct. When Lingard played for us, he hardly went back into defend. He was asked to sort of stand more or less in the middle of the park and wait for a break, etc. Whereas you're right, Ben Rama does get back a lot more. But the problem with Ben Rama, especially what he was doing against Brighton, is he was getting the ball from deep and then he was losing it deep. Sometimes he wasn't even getting past the halfway line, and he'd lose the ball a couple of times. Michael, lone move for Hilaire. Keep saying we've been playing Champions League if he was with us now. Anyway, Hammerette. Antonio isn't cutting it right now, unfortunately, but we don't have options. Burgess could have come on for the final 10 minutes yesterday. I just don't think it's right for him. I think if we were winning, maybe 2-0, you might have seen 10 minutes of Perkins. But when the game was on the knife edge as it was, it probably wouldn't have been the right thing to do. But in all honesty, I did actually want Antonio to go off. I just felt like, and I kind of convinced myself a few weeks ago when I spoke about Antonio, like maybe he's just playing like a typical striker is. A striker only needs, can be anonymous throughout the whole game, and he only needs just that one chance in order to get in and score. But unfortunately, at the moment, he's not even getting chances. He's not looking for the ball, and unfortunately, it's just not happening for him. So I just wonder maybe if we do play Bowen up front, or even Yarmolenko up front and put Bowen on the right, and just say to Antonio, just sit this one out, see what's going on in the game, and then when you're ready, come on and be effective for me. That could work. That could work. Long Dark. I was hoping Perkins would see out the last 10. Well, yep, just mentioned that. Michael, we need to change formation 4-3-3. I've seen a couple of people say that. I'm not so sure. I like the 4-2-3-1. I think it can work for us. It's just how we, as I said, but we rely an awful lot on Antonio to make that 4-2-3-1 formation work. 4-3-3 might expose us a little bit more against some teams, to be honest. Ralph. Ralph enjoying the sun. I hate you already. Bench him and Benny get rid of Masuaku. Can't argue with that last bit. Long Dark. If Zuma on the right, I would probably go with Johnson, but really need to push the right. Yep, absolutely. Black Country. All players have a dip in form. That's why we need a new striker in January. Graham, I think you might be right. Play a 5-2-3-1 and hope they don't notice. Not sure. I think they might notice that, Graham. Peter, Moyes messed up last night with selection and subs. Will do well to finish top 7. The only game I'm confident of winning in December, barring the Euro game, is probably Norwich, but they are better. I don't know, Peter. I think, I kind of get why Moyes sticks with his guns. He'll always pick the same players unless he's forced to make changes, and he was forced to make changes with Creswell going out. But Johnson and Soufal on either side of defence played okay. I'm a bit dubious about Dawson, to be quite honest with you. We didn't know what Ben Rama was like, but maybe Ben Rama should have been subbed a little bit sooner rather than giving Lanzini, what was it, the last 20 minutes or so. Motra, personally, since Ogbonna got injured, Zuma has looked a fish out of water. Maybe that says more about Ogbonna than Zuma. Well, they had a natural partnership. You could see it. They were gelled together, and that's why I think maybe. Don't know what's going to happen in the January transfer window, but maybe that's why I think that we should be seeing Diop and Zuma and see what they're like in the Premier League. Ralph Lanzini must start. I would play Perkins on Thursday. I think Thursday is a completely different kettle of fish. I think you're going to see quite a few youngsters and the likes probably of Masuaku and Fredericks and other fringe players, Vlasic, etc. You're going to see a lot of them starting on Thursday. I think Perkins will play. I think you might see a couple of other youngsters playing as well. Michael, get rid of Yarmolenko, Dawson and Masuaku. Epic. We're lucky if we're 7th a month from now with the way we're playing. Dip. a dip. Let's see what happens on Saturday. A big game for us on Saturday. Not just about making sure that getting the points or whatever, but it's the performance as well. The performance is important. Peter, at least pressure is off Chelsea. We're not expected to get anything. I expect us to win. I expect us to go out there and give them a good run for their money. Peter, Antonio won't recapture the form pre-Reggae Boys matches. Scott, he's a magician. Give him the ball and let him do his magic. Let's scroll down. Motra, I don't rate Ben Rama, especially his final ball decision making. That's what's kind of letting him down at the moment. Let's scroll down. Scott looked out again for you, Stel, but couldn't see you, mate. We'll bump into each other sooner or later. Daniela, we've played 21 games since the 15th of August, and we've got 49 games. We're going to play 49 games before the FA Cup starts, and also finals and semi-finals. It's going to be a long season. We didn't talk much because you were ruining my street cred. There you go. I ruined your street cred. There you go. Sorry about that, Morris. Oops. Go back again. West Ham need a striker. End off. And I keep asking the same question. What if we only get Lingard in and no striker, and he scores a dozen goals for us? We happy with that? Motra, Antonio is going through a slump, but he's been fantastic for us over 18 months, but still cannot understand why Moyes did not bring in a striker over the past 2 windows, past 3 windows, and it might be 4 without a striker. It's going to bite us, Eamon. It's all about what we do in January. I think all these games are finally catching up with us. Michael, my 11 to play Chelsea, 4-3-3. Areola, Diop, Zuma, Soufal, Creswell, Rice, Soucek, Kral. Interesting. Bowen, Lanzini, and Fornals. Yeah. GP, poor Stell, that means happy. Stell is a god. Thank you for that. Football with Brownie. Still, do you think Antonio's focused as he seems that his head has been turned since being called up by Jamaica? Well, it's a it's a call. It's not as if he's being looked at by other Premier League teams or whatever. So his focus should be as it is. I just think he's playing too many games. I just think I think if Moyes did have another striker, he would actually keep switching them round to keep them fresh. I just think the lad is just playing too many games. Simple as that, and he can't get into it. I don't think playing for Jamaica's got much to. Well, playing for Jamaica's got a lot to do with his travelling, and that doesn't help. Which is why another striker in the squad will help with that, because it can help him recuperate a lot more. Pixel, I was going to troll this YouTube, but you seem balanced so far. I'm not gonna tip a point. Thank you very much, Pixel, and thank you for joining. Amaret, I'm joking. Still, thank you very much. Daniela, if I can get that up. We have having a great season. We need to relax, see how we can beat Arsenal. Well, we've got a lot of games before we get to Arsenal. Stuart, afternoon still. We need to focus till the new year, mate. Come on, your irons. I've got to go soon, people. I've got to go and get my jab, my booster. Ralph, last 5 games, mate. Where are you in the summer? I'm really pissed off. Right, last 5 games we look crap apart from Liverpool. And that is a really good point actually, Ralph, because apart from the Liverpool game, we didn't really look that good before, but the results were going our way, so we kind of we skipped over some of the bad performances that we had because we got the results. That's a really good point. Mihailo, my 11, 5-2-3-1. Fabianski, Soufal, Zuma, Dawson, Diop. Oh, you want those 3 at the back? Creswell, Soucek, Rice, Fornals, Lanzini, and Bowen. Motra. Fabianski hasn't done anything wrong. Not sure we can drop it. I kind of do agree with that. I do agree with that. James, hello, mate. He's still the Moyes, and we're still Mahusiv. We absolutely are. Jason, hello, mate. Jason Carroll Harper. Moyes is still building this club. It takes time. Absolutely right. Which is why I'm trying not to be. I'm not being. I don't think I actually am. I picked out some of the errors that some of the players have made, I think, and tried to try and balance it. But you're absolutely right. Moyes is going to need another 1, 2, 3 maybe transfer windows to get us to where we want to be. Champions League regulars. Long dark. I think if Fornals had hit the back of the net, it would have been a different story today. I think it would have been, but it would have again papered over some of the cracks though. But I totally agree. We're all being cock a hoop. We would have won that game, and everything would have been back. Would have been fine. Frank, hello mate. All right, Frank. He's back. Nice to have you back. I've got to scroll very, very fast. Chelsea bowler accounts are not playing well. Yeah, and that's when they're probably most dangerous. Chris, only Ben Rama will get replaced by Landon. That's kind of what I think. Chris, to be honest with you. I'll put that link up again. I think this is what Moyes will do. I think he'll kind of stick to only Lanzini will come in and everyone else will be kind of the same. What I would like, but then who am I? I'd like Diop to come in. I'd like someone on the right. I put Vlasic there, but someone on the right. Yarmolenko, Fredericks, Vlasic, doesn't matter. Put Lanzini and then put Bone up front. That's what I would like. But I know I'm not David Moyes and I won't get my way. Let's scroll down because I've really got to go. Hi, Frank. Cheers for the pint of the cook. Oh, you bought, hang on a minute. You're buying everyone else a drink, are you? Where Phil smashed my head in. Frank, come on. We're going to beat Chelsea easy. We are. Don't stop. Michael P, that's the midfield I want to see. Can't understand why we've not tried it. Let's scroll down. Pete, we won't get Tony in January, especially if Brentford, Brentford is still in the Premier League. There's no way they're going to give us Ivan Tony for. It's just, I mean, great thinking, Peter, but it ain't going to happen. It won't even happen at the end of the season, let alone in January. Frank, Phil always gets carried out. Yeah, talking about Phil and Pat and all that. Victor, we have 3 points more at this stage of the season compared to this time last season. All is not bad, and that's what I'm really, trying to keep in perspective. David, any opinions on the disallowed goal? Yeah, harsh. Very, very, very harsh. And the fact that it was taking so long, we knew that the minute it got into something like three minutes of checking it, they were because first it was meant to be for a foul, and then it was like that, and then it was meant to be offside. It's like offside, and it was harsh. It was harsh. Ethan, the draw hurt. It did hurt, absolutely. Um, Jason, Ralph, I believe until now it worked for Moyes, but yes, I agree. We now have to either play Perkins more regularly or sign a striker in January. Hammerette, David, same as that. I was 5 minutes for the double. It was just mad, really mad. David, Johnson not playing the next game, but be the captain for the Europa game. Oh, good shout. Amar, good afternoon. You told us that Ben Rama loses the ball, but you didn't tell us why he's losing the ball. Because he keeps running with it and not making the right decisions, Amar. Unfortunately, we saw that quite a lot yesterday. He picked the ball up, especially from deep in our own half, and start to carry it out. Instead of just looking and trying to pass the ball, he was trying to beat too many players, and he had it nicked off him several times. Unfortunately, sometimes the decision making is not great. VAR are checking for anything on fashionable in Stell's wardrobe. How very dare you, Martin Stefanik. Hi, Stel. Would you be open to signing Nathaniel Phillips from Liverpool, either on loan or reasonable transfer? Right, I did Phillips on my Monday night show, so if you haven't watched that, go and watch the West Ham Weekly on Monday night, where I talked about Arthur Cabral and several other possible signings. Phillips has only just signed an extended lease. Phillips only just signed an extended contract with Liverpool in the summer until 2025, I think. And so he could have either signed it for one of two reasons: either to put his value up, or because they value the player and they want him to stay. I've got a feeling it's the latter. So if anything, we'll probably, if the rumours are true, we'll probably get him on loan. But I doubt very much we'll be able to buy him because he's only just signed that extended contract. So they rate him and I think they want to keep him. But on loan, possibly. Gary, Deck looked down with the team. If his head goes down, we're in trouble. He looked upset, because but then he's the one that's got to rally the troops, and he can't show that he's disappointed and upset. I know it's not easy, especially a young player, captain of the team, etc. But they're looking up to him now. I've got to scroll down, people. Russ Gardner, hello, mate. At least Perkins would run and press by the end of the game. Antonio has nothing left. Might as well bring the kids in for the last 10, 15 minutes. I think if we were 2-0 up, quite possibly, you're right. Quite possibly he might have got a run out. Your countdown, hello, mate. Sorry I'm late. Didn't expect Stel to be here already. Cheeky git, but you're absolutely right. Robert, thanks for joining us, mate. Robert, Moyes, use your bench or get rid of them and renew. Well, that's what's going on in my head. That's what I'm thinking. It's time to start using that bench a little bit more. I don't know what that's about, Frank, but there you go. Robert, can't play at home and surrender 60. I agree. But look, they're a really good team. They're not a bad team. But I totally and utterly agree. Let's scroll down because I've got to go and get my jab. Stuart, we have another 3 months to focus on the last 16 of Europa, which I still think we can win and just stay in the mix in the top 4. Absolutely. Norman, I don't want to put it into perspective. We have been crap in the last 3 games. I cannot imagine that changing against Chelsea. That would mean 1 or 2 points out of 12 when we have Wolves and Brighton. Yeah, there's games, but you never know. We might turn up. Peter, he's not off in the summer. Calm your pants. He's not. Ralph, good video. Arthur Cabral, yes, please. He was on the show. Well, he was on the show. Well, I talked about him on the show. But do join me later if my jab doesn't knock me out for another striker that might just be a little bit more suited to West Ham than Arthur Cabral. How many boosters does a person need? Not enough. There you go. But I don't make up all the government rules. Still, you're getting me worried. Go and get that jab. James Allen, Stella Moyes has created this issue at Hammers. We need to keep Antonio as makeshift striker. Good point. Peter, the cardboard cutout would have done better. Antonio, can you stop chatting so I can go? Amar, don't you think the position of players on the field, especially the front players, not making it easy for? No, I disagree. Look, sometimes you've got to say what it is. If a player doesn't play well, he doesn't play well. You can't disguise it by suggesting other things. I've said Antonio's not playing well. Fornals is a little bit off the boil. Bowen, he's not got his shooting boots on. So it's not just Ben Rama, but in all honesty, he's not been playing well. Right, people. All right, I'll do that last one, Amar, and then I'll go. I can say that West Ham is full of players that are physically good but tactically weak, and that's why players like Ben Rama lose the ball. Good point. Right, that's it. Thank you all very much for watching. I've got to go and get my jab, my booster. Do join me if I'm still all right after the jab. I might do a show about 6:30ish. So join me for that if I'm around. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for all the points, etc., that you've raised, and see you later.